The strange thing is you look at most books and you see Michigan State being, more favorited. I guess the higher favorite to make the NCAA tournament or to win it. Michigan State's hovering around 15-1, 18-1, something like that. But then you have Purdue that I've seen at 25-1, 33-1, and someone sent me a message the other day showing them at 75-1. If you look at who Purdue has to play left, they're going to be favored in every single game that they have, and because they already went through the gauntlet of their schedule. They played Wisconsin, they played Michigan State twice, they took care of business. And now Purdue, it only has one top 25 team left, and that's at Maryland. So from a scheduling perspective, they're going to have a higher seed, unless something crazy happens, than Michigan State coming in the tournament, when you have Michigan State that still has to play Wisconsin, Michigan twice, and some other tough teams like Minnesota, Indiana again, Nebraska. I definitely like, from a value perspective, Purdue right there.
I can't argue with Purdue. I mean, I'd say if you were going to play devil's advocate here, you'd say that Matt Painter hadn't had much success in the NCAA tournament. And that's true. I mean, but this Purdue team got undervalued here when they were, off to a slow start this season. They played a really tough schedule during that time. And Purdue has that leader in Edwards that you really need in March. So while I don't think Purdue will win at all, and I don't think you do necessarily either, it's one of those where you probably have some value on the price.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some value there. They're the type of team that can beat the big guys inside if they can hit their threes. They've been crazy hitting those threes, and sometimes, as you've seen in some of the big teams get upset, it's if the other team's just hitting their 3-point shots off the screen, off the pick. That's huge. And I think Purdue has that ability. Like, if they played a team like Kentucky, I'd be a little concerned for Kentucky defending the three, against a team like Purdue. So that's why I definitely like their value there. And I like their seed. I see a 2 seed, maybe a 3, but just with their schedule and what they have left, being in a top ranked team right now, I see them kind of walking into the tournament with a pretty high seed right there. Well, let's get into some games, shall we, Kyle?
Sounds good.
MAC conference we have. Let's start with Friday here. And not a huge slate of Power 5 games on Friday. Most of them are Saturday and Sunday. But, we definitely want our listeners to have some action if they can. And I want to talk a little bit about Kent State versus Akron. According to KenPom, Akron's going to be laying about 6, a total of, I think, about 134. Do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say about this is, being from Ohio and being in Ohio, it's well known that these two teams don't like each other at all. This is a massive rivalry game. Very, very heated game. We've seen some really strange things happen in this rivalry game in college basketball in the past. I have to say, I would not lay the points in this game. I'm not necessarily saying I would take Kent State, but I wouldn't want to lay 6 points with Akron. Main reason being it's been so inconsistent on what happens in this rivalry game. And number 2 is I kind of like the under in this game. So if you like the under some, I think the number might come out a little bit higher than what KenPom has at 134. That's his projection. I think you probably will be able to get a little higher than that. We'll see. If it does get much higher than that, that'll be one that I consider. Akron's defense has been really good this year, and they slowed the pace down. Kent State, kind of middle of the line as far as, what they do, whether they're running or playing slowly. I think Akron can control the tempo in a game like this, but I think this is going to be a close game. So like I said, I wouldn't want to lay the points. I think there's a lot of different things that could happen in this game, and it wouldn't surprise me. Having said that, I think that since Akron's such a good team on defense, I mean, they're 33rd in defensive efficiency in the country, and they're 242nd in offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. This is an Akron team that, shoots 30.8% from 3-point range. They're not very good at shooting, but they're good at defending. I think that we'll see some solid defense in this game. Like I said, I wouldn't want to lay the points. If you look at Kent State has been, up and down. They won at Oregon State, 66-63. That's a good win, for a MAC team to go to Oregon in what was their break right at finals time, right after finals, before Christmas. I think that's a pretty impressive win. So Kent State to be able to do that, impressive, but at the same time, then they lose some games that you wouldn't think that they would lose. You know, they lose at home to Liberty. Now, Liberty's a good team, so it turns out that 7-point loss at home wasn't really that bad. But I think that both of these teams are fairly decent teams from the MAC. I wouldn't want to lay the points, and I do think that when you get in a rivalry game like this, you have to lean toward the under, because as the game means more to players, you usually see better defense.
And they want to make less mistakes, so they're not necessarily running crazy. No, I absolutely get what you're saying there. That makes total sense. You know, Akron has that had a pretty bad loss last game against Toledo. They only scored 52 points here. Maybe they were looking ahead to this game. I don't know, but it kind of goes within the system. 28% from field goal percentage. Now, like you said, they're still a terrible shooting team, but they shoot 43% at home. Kent State shoots about 40.6%. As a system play, you know, you want to back Akron going home, only shooting 28%, but 6 is a big number for this, like you said. I think I'm going to wait and see if I can get under 5. If I can get under 5, I might have a small play on Akron, but I think you might be more right looking at the under right there. So love what you're saying there. Let's go to the MAAC conference here, my man. I think you know a lot about this one too. Not the greatest conference out there, but I love this game because this is just so up your alley. You know, you love the totals. You have Siena versus Manhattan. Manhattan's +1. Your total is probably going to be about 113 points, one of the lowest totals of the year, I'm sure. You know, Manhattan, what can you say? I think they did beat Ryder their last game. What kind of thoughts do you have on this one?
You know, I think that, first of all, when you sent me this game, the first thing I thought of right away is a few games ago I had Manhattan an over, you know, trying to play a low over. It was like 120 or something like that. I think it was against Monmouth back on January 12th. I watched almost the entire game, and it was a really ugly game, just about as bad a game as you could ever see. I would say that when you watch MAC basketball, MAAC basketball, you see a Manhattan game, you already know what's going to happen. They're going to turn it over back and forth. You know, it's going to be Manhattan's second worst in the country at taking care of the basketball. Almost 26% of their possessions end in a turnover. Gosh, that'd be so just awful. I mean, the best teams are, you know, 13, 14, 15%. And, you know, you double that turnover rate, you can see a big difference. And then they're also forcing turnovers at the third highest rate of anybody. So you're going to see a lot of throw the ball away, go back the other way, throw it away again. Usually that has a lot to do with why a total would be so low, because you're wasting possessions, you're playing slowly, and you're wasting possessions. So you have two teams here who really want to play slow. Manhattan 341st in the country in overall tempo. Siena 352nd. There's 353 teams. So, I mean, this is going to be very, very slow. I have to say, you know, this is one of those where I don't like taking really low unders, but there's no way I could take the over in this game. It just can't happen. Siena, lately, I did want to point out that Jamion Christian, I think he's doing a pretty good job with this team. This is a team that is very young. They have a lot of height, a lot of length. They believe they're the tallest team in the conference. Jalen Pickett, a very good freshman for this team, and he's been extremely good here of late. Very good with the assists, getting a lot of steals. Shoots 36.5% from three-point range. You know, Jalen Pickett is a good leader for this team. If I had to take a side in this game, I would probably take Siena. The thing that worries me a little bit here is, you know, they already beat them once. And revenge can be a pretty strong angle in college basketball. So, you know, what's the line going to be here? Probably, you know, Siena favored by a point or so. And the total, I mean, when you see a 113, usually it gets bet up and it's a little above that. You know, it'll be 115 or 114.5 or something like that. Like I said, I could not take the over. There's no way. It's going to be so slow. Siena's first in the conference in defensive efficiency, only giving up 0.942 points per possession. This is not a game that I would suggest watching, but let's see if we can get some betting value.
If you bet the over, please don't watch this game. It's going to frustrate the hell out of you. Like you said, Manhattan's going to turn the ball over and Siena's going to miss the layup. This is exactly the kind of game that you're looking at. The only slower team than Siena is Virginia.
Right.
It's the epitome of slow. But then again, I mean, is everyone gonna see that and bet this thing down? But I think the only way you could watch this game is bet the under, because then you can kind of smile when you see how bad a basketball this thing really is. Siena is 8-3 against the spread as an away team. You gotta like that. Manhattan's 5-5 at home, looking for revenge. Somehow Manhattan won their last 3 games in a row. And like I said with Ryder, that was a little surprising to me. And because of this, they might make it 4 in a row here. I don't want to pick a side in this, but these teams played already. And the score was 50-43. The thing went to 93 points. So Manhattan, they even play a little bit slower in conference by 1 possession per game, and by a second more for average possession length. So I have this game Siena 56-55. So I think that's going to say under, but I think the only way I want to watch this game is betting the under, and I think I might just have to auto bet it because of how slow these teams play. I think you'd be pretty proud of yourself if you bet the under on such a low total and hit it there. Nothing big, of course, but I had to throw this game out there because I know how much you love totals, Kyle. Let's move into Saturday's slate, my man. My Badgers, my favorite team, my alma mater, is playing Michigan. Michigan's probably going to be laying about 5 points. Total's going to be around 119. We have to guess the spreads, of course, when it comes to these earlier podcasts. Michigan looking for revenge, my man. What do you think about this?
I'm interested to hear your take on this one too. I know you're a big Wisconsin guy. Hey, I think Michigan is the team that has a higher upside. The team that has the bigger chance to win the whole thing if you get in the big dance. Obviously I'm an Ohio State fan, so I don't really like Michigan very much. But I think Michigan's a really good team, and John Beilein, a tremendous coach. I think he is still probably underrated, to be honest with you. Michigan, though. A couple slip ups there, losing that game to Wisconsin, which, that's losing at Wisconsin is not anything to be ashamed of. I was surprised that they lost the way they did at Iowa. 15-point loss to Iowa was a pretty bad performance from them. I think the lean that I would have in this game would probably be the under. We'll see if we can get, maybe 122 or 123. I see Ken Palm has 119. I assume it'll be a little bit higher than that. I would lean toward the under. The first game they played 64-54, and I believe there was a little bit of fouling there at the end of that game. So I think that Michigan would be my lean if I had to take a side here, but I'm almost sure I will not bet this game from a side standpoint. Lean to the under, although I will say I really think that I just want to watch this game as a fan more than anything else.
Absolutely, and I did already cap this game against when they played Wisconsin. Was successful because I did have the Badgers side on it, given with the Wolverines their first loss. But Wisconsin is a very good road team. They're 6-3 against the spread on the road. Michigan is 6-8 at home. Nothing great, nothing to write home about. You have to see this is a huge revenge spot, right? Michigan remembers very well their first loss. Who handed it to them? The Badgers. They have a terrible shooting percentage that game. Yeah, but from a metric standpoint, I like how Wisconsin's pack line defense matches up against the Wolverines, because the Wolverines are more of a dribble drive type team. They do not shoot the ball well. 35% from three. The way to beat Michigan is to force them to shoot. Force Simpson to shoot. If you can kind of pack your team into that painted area, you have a better shot against them. Ethan Happ's a mismatch for anybody, really, but he was he was a mismatch for John Teskey. No Move Wagner like we had last year, right? And Teskey had to learn a little bit last time. My question is, how motivated will Wisconsin be? They just beat their rival Minnesota in a revenge spot away, and they got the revenge. And then they already beat Michigan once, and then they have Michigan State on the road. or at home when they're coming back after this game. It's kind of a little sandwich spot for them, and it's a wounded Michigan State team, right? So I can't bet Wisconsin necessarily like this in a sandwich spot. There's a simple formula to beat Wisconsin, and it's not just hack a Hap. It's get Hap in foul trouble. When Hap's in foul trouble, that inside presence is gone because guys like Nate Ravers,